Well, greetings and salutations again, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie related show on planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here, maybe, on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys join me here. And for those of you who are just joining us, this is take two. Because ever since we upgraded my Wirecast is the main underlying software I use to do all the switching and streaming and all that kind of stuff. And ever since I've done the upgrade, I've had a lot of technical problems. We tried doing the live stream a little bit earlier today, and we were having massive audio problems. We're trying to see if it looks like maybe we got it working now. So away we go. And listen, we got a lot of stuff to talk about here today. And of course, joining me here today is one and the only Mr. Robert Meyer Burnett. Robert, how you doing, sir?
Well, John, I got to tell you, in our little break, it was announced, I read on Deadline, that Studio Canal announced their new 4K titles for 2020.
Which, of course, makes you very happy.
Oh, man, they're putting out Flash Gordon in 4K, bruh. They're putting out Total Recall, and of course, Basic Instinct. I've been waiting for Basic Instinct on 4K for a long time.
You even have Basic Instinct Hot Toys, don't you?
Well, I've got, it's a statue. It's made by Blitzway. And Blitzway is a rival to Hot Toys. They've made a Carlito's Way figure. They did a great 4-pack that I have of all the Ghostbusters. And they just did a Vito Corleone from The Godfather quarter-scale statue that I'm going to have standing right next to my Catherine Trammell, who's sitting in a chair. She came with a chair, John.
Oh, well, of course, that's always the main thing. And listen, guys, we do have a whole bunch of things to talk about here today, and we're already behind schedule because of our technical problems. So we're going to start rolling into it, and we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. The first thing we're going to talk about, a few things off the top. And the first thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Cats is a movie that's coming. Now, look, I admit, if it wasn't for the fact that it's being directed by Tom Hooper, who is incredible. He is an incredible director. I loved his rendition of Les Mis. I thought his rendition of Les Mis was fabulous. And he did one of my absolute favorite films of the decade, which was The King's Speech. I thought that movie, it won Best Picture of the Academy Awards. It's one of my favorite movies of the decade. This dude's amazing. He simply doesn't know how to make a bad film. But he's making a movie that so far looks like a bad film in Cats, because the first trailer came out and is absolutely dreadful. Awful first trailer. Well, this morning they dropped a second trailer for Cats. And I'm going to say this. This should have been the first trailer, because you never get a second chance to make a first impression. And this was a markedly better trailer than that last one. It had a more of a sense of fun to it. It had the curiosity to it that you'd expect with Cats. I got more of a sense of the personality of the characters. It's never a bad thing to have more Idris Elba. Rob, you know this. In anything in life, it's always better to add a little bit of Idris Elba to that. There's a little bit more than... Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say this is the greatest trailer of the year or anything like that. But it was so much better than that first trailer. I actually watched this trailer and I go, okay, this now kind of looks like a movie I'd be interested in seeing. Whereas that first trailer, zero interest after that first trailer. This one, I'm on board. Rob, you saw this thing. Is it the same old, a little bit worse, a little bit better, significantly better? How did you see this?
No,
one?
I'm like you. I watch this and I'm like, I'll see that. I mean, it had fantasy. It's got whimsy. I mean, I know Chris Carl mentioned it still has no cat buttholes.
Yeah, right. Where are the cat buttholes?
But
Where are the tails?
No, I did really like what I saw. It looks like it's beautifully staged. I think now that the first trailer, you had to get over the initial shock of what the hell am I watching, and now that we know what we're seeing. It really looked good to me. I mean, obviously it's a fantasy film, and I do like how they've refined the look of the cats. I like how the actors are still recognizable. And I got to tell you, John, I know you're a song and dance man, so these are probably an easier sell for you, but I'm in. I watch this trailer and I will go see this movie.
Yeah, and again, I just thought it was a big improvement. Question is, guys, have you had a chance to see the new Cats trailer? I'm not saying it reinvented the wheel, but it's just so much better than the first trailer was, because it was so bad. What did you guys think about it? Does it change your opinion or change your enthusiasm level for the movie at all? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, a couple other things here off the top, and the next thing we're going to cover is this. We all know that there is a Lord of the Rings series coming, and not long ago, they put out a little sizzle video, Rob, highlighting and talking about like all the behind the scenes talent they got working on this. And that video by itself is enough to make you salivate. Like, it's just enough to put my enthusiasm and my excitement for the series into overdrive when you see all the people they're bringing in to make this show with. It's exciting. Well, the show is still a little ways off. And J.A. Bayona is going to be directing the first couple episodes.
I'm a huge fan.
Big fan of J.A. Bayona, so that's great. Well, listen, turns out they've already greenlit. It became official today. They announced that they have greenlit season 2. They are now a go for season 2. So what they have said is now apparently it's kind of regular business that once you shoot the first couple of episodes of a series, you take a break, reassess how those episodes went, and then you prepare for moving forward. So what they're going to do now is after they finish shooting the first 2 episodes of Lord of the Rings, they're saying they're going to take a big break and reassemble. They already hired the writer's room to come back. They're going to reassemble the writer's room to start charting out season 2. They are moving forward with this. Now listen, you and I at home and myself, none of us have seen one bit of this Lord of the Rings series. We don't know if it's going to be great or if it's going to be horrible. But by greenlighting officially and recalling and bringing back the writer's room and start assigning new directors, what is happening here is that Amazon is actually putting up money now. This isn't just lip service. Once you greenlight it, there's a financial commitment. We talked about that the other day with The Witcher. There's a financial commitment that comes along with that. They're actually putting their money behind it, saying, you know what? We are so confident in what we've got that even though season 2 is an expensive endeavor, and all the prep work to go into it is super expensive, we're committing to it because we really believe in what the material it is we have. We love the direction our team is going. We think this is going to be great. And look, it may turn out to be trash, but I love it when studios believe in their own stuff, and this is good to me, especially since it is, of course, a Lord of the Rings thing. Rob, you hear this? Is this much ado about nothing, or is this something that, yeah, we should be excited about?
No, I think we should be excited. I mean, I think it's significant. Remember, they spent $250 million for the rights. Just the rights. It's the most expensive rights deal in history. So the fact that they're so confident in what they're seeing, the team they put together, I think this is something to really get excited about. And also, you knew they were going to go to New Zealand. One day they're going to finally announce that either Weta's involved and who's in. I think that we're going to get something really special with this show. And kudos to Amazon for throwing their weight behind rescuing The Expanse. First of all.
Yeah, they're doing some good stuff.
And then, I really have been enjoying Jack Ryan, even though the second season wasn't nearly as good as the first. Again, a literary-based character. Between Jack Ryan, The Expanse, and now Lord of the Rings, you've got these beloved literary characters. I'm a Tom Clancy fan, so Jack Ryan is beloved to me. But The Expanse, great series of science fiction novels. Of course, Tolkien is one of the cornerstone canon of all fantasy works ever written. And I think that they're really doing a great job supporting this kind of programming. So kudos to them. John, I think we're going to get something kick-ass when it comes to Lord of the Rings.
And it's not just the $250 million they put up for the rights.
Oh, no.
It's the budget they're putting in. I mean, they are not half-assing this thing at all.
This is going to be $1 billion. It'll probably wind up being the most expensive production ever of anything in the history of motion pictures or television.
And we often say, put your money where your mouth is. Amazon's doing it. They're saying, we believe in this so much, we're going to put this kind of money into it and greenlight a season 2 before they've even started shooting at season 1. Before they've even started shooting. We were talking about, oh my God, they greenlit season 2 for The Witcher without The Witcher premiering. They haven't even shot episode 1 of this damn thing yet.
And I love the fact that it's taking place during the Second Age.
Yes.
And how we saw the very end of the Second Age at the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring with the battle of the first battle of the Ring against Sauron. I love that they're doing that. And I think that they'll probably stitch it all together so this new series will work with Peter Jackson's 6 films, I would imagine.
I think they've said that is their goal. So the question here is, guys, maybe you think this is much ado about nothing, but do you think it's something worth raising your eyebrow about and being a little bit excited about the fact that Amazon has already greenlit and they've already hired people to start working on season 2? Jump down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, one last thing to get to off the top, and this truly is off the top. One of the things that I have lamented, Rob, over the past little while, besides, particularly when it comes to the DCEU universe. I love Ben Affleck as Batman. Broke my heart when we found out he wasn't going to be Batman anymore.
He was great.
I loved him as Batman. But Henry Cavill, and I know it's almost sacrilege to say Henry Cavill is my all-time favorite Superman. I do not believe he is coming back to play Superman. When asked about it, instead of saying, "Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna," no, Warner Brothers didn't even pretend to lie. They're like, "We have no plans for Superman at the moment." But this is interesting. Just heard about this morning. Henry Cavill, while not saying Warner Brothers is committed to still having him as Superman, he has come out and he is saying that personally, he's not done. He doesn't consider himself done for this. He, as far as he's concerned, he's still got it. Here's some of the things he was saying. He said the cape is in the closet. That's a term they've used before. That's a term that his publicist used before months and months and months ago. The cape is still in the closet. It's still mine. I'm not just going to sit quietly in the dark as all this stuff is going on. I've not given up the role. There's a lot I have to give for Superman yet. A lot of storytelling to do. A lot of real, true depths to the honesty of the character I want to get into. I want to reflect on the comic books. That's important to me. There's a lot of justice to be done for Superman. The status is, you'll see. Now, then they go on to write, the actor was also asked for an honest 7 to 3 films, and he said, Man of Steel, a great starting point. Not just a great starting point, Henry. It's a magnificent film. Man of Steel is a magnificent film. If I were to go back, I don't think I'd change anything. Batman versus Superman? Very much a Batman movie. And I think that realm of darkness is great for a Batman movie. Justice League, it didn't work. Now, he then goes on to say, well, I mean, there was more in another iteration of the interview, but basically, Rob, what we've got here is Henry Cavill saying that he hasn't given up. I like the wording of that. There's a lot I have to do, but I haven't given up on this. I'm just not going to sit quietly in the dark while this stuff's going on. I've not given up the role. I think the wording here is important because I don't see anything in here that is suggesting to me that, yeah, me and Warner Brothers, we're still on the same page and we're going to move forward and make more Superman movie together. I don't see that in his comments. But even though that's not there, as an individual who does not think that Henry Cavill will play Superman again, but God, I am desperate to see Henry Cavill play Superman again. I mean, and look, this doesn't give me a lot of hope because it's just, I need Warner Brothers to say this stuff.
Right.
So it doesn't give me a lot of hope, but at least gives me some. Because, again, I adore Henry Cavill's portrayal as the Man of Steel. I think he portrayed a borderline perfect Superman, understanding we've got a Kal-El in a modern-day context, not the 1950s and the 1960s, and what would his world be like and how would it look like to him? I thought his portrayal of it has been bang on. Fantastic. I just love this guy. And I would love to see it. So I'm not going to get overly excited about this comment, because, again, I need to hear Warner Brothers saying, yes, we are still committed to Henry Cavill as our Superman, which they have never said. And even when given the opportunity to say it, they passed on it. That's important to keep in mind. But I at least like hearing this. This is at least good, isn't it, Rob? Or am I getting my hopes up for nothing?
First of all, I like that he comes out and flat out says, I like Man of Steel.
Yeah, I love that.
Proud of Man of Steel. I'm tired. You and I staunchly defend Man of Steel. So did Schnepp, by the way. We're Man of Steel lovers. I think, John, on the heels of this, I'm expecting a tweet any moment now. Hashtag Henry Cavill says, release the Snyder Cut.
Actually,
I don't know. Look, he hasn't said that. By the way, I don't want to step into.
But he has spoken about that. Did you remember his comment from a couple months ago about how there's no point? Remember him saying that?
I don't want to get into some quagmire I'm never going to get myself out of. But I think this is great. And I thought Henry Cavill was great as Superman, and I thought he was great in Man of Steel when he really wasn't Superman yet. I was looking forward to seeing his journey to becoming Superman. In Batman v Superman, there wasn't enough of him, and of course, Justice League, I thought he got done dirty. But I would love to see another Man of Steel film as a follow-up because I think it would be great. And I love hearing him say this. I think Henry Cavill's one of our great unsung actors. I think he's going to make Witcher an incredible show to watch. You and I have expressed our love of Man from U.N.C.L.E. So I love Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mean, him and Armie Hammer was so good.
Great chemistry.
So that movie's so underrated. And now to hear him say this, somebody give that man a Superman movie. You know what? They gave Captain Marvel a shield again. Somebody give Henry Cavill a Superman movie.
Captain
Now.
America shield again?
Yeah, get this man a shield. When he went to, when
Oh yeah, no,
when Black
you
Panther
said Captain Marvel a shield, but yeah,
I say Captain Marvel,
but I get it.
I mean, Captain America, get this man a shield. Get Henry Cavill a Man of Steel movie. Get another. Why is there no? We get Joker movie, we get another Batman movie, and we still don't have another Superman movie. Come on, man.
I know, like they still are scratching their heads over Warner Bros. What to do. And listen, we got to remember, Henry Cavill. It's not like he just suddenly burst onto the scene. Henry Cavill is a guy that all the talent agents had circled for years before you and I ever heard his name, because they knew this guy's got it.
Yeah.
This guy has it. He was the runner-up to play James Bond. He lost that out to Daniel Craig, so we still never heard of Henry Cavill. Back when they were doing Superman Returns, that went to Brandon Routh, and I love Brandon Routh as Superman. I love Brandon Routh.
I did too.
But Henry Cavill was the runner-up at that time. They have been looking at him and circling this guy as a cannot-miss blue-chip prospect for absolute superstardom, and he is not disappointed. Right from when he was in The Tudors, moving on, and I loved him as Superman, Man from U.N.C.L.E. You put this dude in anything, I will eat it up, and I would love to see him back again. This is not Warner Brothers saying that we have plans to use him again. No. And we do have to remember that Warner Brothers was given the opportunity to affirm Henry Cavill as their Superman, and all they chose to say is, we love Henry Cavill, but right now we have no plans for Superman. So they gave the most worst non-answer ever in history. But man, wouldn't it be great? I still don't think he will be back, but oh my God, wouldn't it be great? I'm just going to sit here and hope quietly. Question is, guys, how are you feeling about these comments from Henry Cavill at this point? Do you think there's something to be excited about? Are you like, until Warner Brothers says something, there's nothing to be excited about? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down and out of the way, let's now move on to our main topics today. And how do we select our main topics around here at the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. See, you guys come up with them by simply going over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you'll see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured here on The John Campea Show. With that down, let's get on to our first main topic of the day. And our first main topic of the day is a doozy. And it comes to us from Brian Wollington, who writes, "Hey, John, have you been following the stuff that's going on with the Justice Department possibly striking down the Paramount consent decrees?" Right now, everybody's going, what?
Right.
Basically, there are laws that prevent monopoly-like behavior from the studios when it comes to movie theaters. It sort of looks like a doomsday scenario for movie theaters, but I don't really see anybody talking about it. What do you think? All right. The Paramount consent decrees.
It's a big topic, John.
It is a big topic. And now listen, the thing, most of you will be at least familiar with one of the repercussions of the Paramount consent decrees, and that is that studios generally, there are some minor exceptions like Disney owning the El Capitan, but generally speaking, one of the ramifications of these laws was the fact that studios can't own movie theaters. But the laws went much further than just that, Rob. The basic understanding of these things was, prior to these laws being passed, and this is going back decades and decades and decades and decades.
48. They were passed
1948. And it was introduced, I think, 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. The basic principle here was this. Movie studios were able to exert a lot of power and create monopoly-like situations over movie theaters, movie theater chains. For example, one of these things the Paramount consent decrees laws stopped was studios' ability to go to a movie theater and say, yeah, we'll let you put our big new mega blockbuster in your movie theater, but only if you also commit to putting our suck-ass movie in your movie theater for the same amount of time that you have our blockbuster. That sort of power and control was anti-competitive, and it was bad for the consumer. So they passed a law that prevented that. The other sort of scenario that it allowed at the time was them able to block book their movies over regions. It's like, yeah, you can play our mega blockbuster movie, but you can't play the other guy's blockbuster movie if you're going to play ours. And like today, Rob, We would hear that and we would think there's no way you could have let something like that happen. But that's what these laws kind of prohibited. Now listen, the good folks over at Slash Film, a terrific article written by Ben Pearson over at Slash Film, basically gets into it, and he starts talking about what are the ramifications going to be, because it looks like Congress is going to move, or the Justice Department is going to move to get rid of these things and get rid of these protections and these laws. And anyway, this is one of the things that he writes here, and let me just make sure I get this in here better. He goes,
you got to read it in that voice you just did.
Yeah!
I love that voice.
The 1920s radio voice. All right, listen, sadly, writes Ben, the negatives far outweigh. Now, I don't normally like to read too much on screen, but this is important stuff, guys. Believe me, I know this isn't, woo, when's the next Flash movie coming? But believe me, this is important stuff for us as film fans. Sadly, the negatives far outweigh the positives here. My example above about Paramount holding a theater hostage for the ability to show the next Mission Impossible could now become the new normal, which is not only terrible for the theater owners, who would be strong-armed into showing movies they would otherwise not show, but also terrible for consumers, since those screenings would mean that smaller independent films, like this year's Parasite, for example, would not be able to play in those theaters like they would have today. Many independent theaters, which are struggling as it is, simply won't be able to stay afloat without being able to rely on major blockbusters throughout the year. A Forbes article from last year suggested that this overhaul, if it indeed comes to pass, it could also mean that smaller studios not just smaller movie theaters, smaller studios, may very well cut back their release schedules, fearing a lack of available screens for their smaller titles, thereby limiting the choices that moviegoers have when they head to their local multiplexes. That same article also points out that under our current laws, studios are mandated. This is important. I remember when I worked at AMC, this was a big deal. This is important. Listen to this. Under the current laws, studios are mandated. It's the law that they provide a viewing of all their movies prior to negotiating with the movie theaters. But if this decree is wiped out, there will be no system of checks and balances. Basically saying, I remember I knew the guy at AMC whose job it was to preview the movies the studios are wanting the theaters to put in their movie theaters. And it was his job to go in and watch these movies first, make an assessment about how successful he thinks they could be, who they'd appeal to, blah, blah, blah. And then the movie theater chain can develop their negotiating strategy about, whether or not to bring and how many screens to put that movie on in their theaters. That's required. Movie theaters wouldn't even have that option anymore. Studios could just no, we're not going to show you a preview of our movie. You just got to negotiate it anyway and just believe it on blind faith. It's an excellent article, and I'm going to recommend, guys, that you go over to Slash Film and read it. Again, it's terrifically laid out and terrifically written, and you should go check it out. Rob, this to me really is a nightmare scenario, because not only is it terrible for film goers, because we are by default going to get fewer choices and fewer options in the movies we're getting. It's terrible for studios like A24 or other smaller studios that put out some great, terrific content, knowing that, oh, you don't have room for our movie on your screens because Disney said if you want to show Star Wars Episode 10, you got to show these 5 other pieces of crap Disney classic movies that we're putting out, or whatever their banner would be. Some crappy movies Disney Studios is putting out. You would rather have ours, but you can't because in order to have Star Wars, you had to put these 5 other pieces of crap movie. Great, no screens for us to. Okay, what do we do? How does a smaller studio make movies if there's no screens to put their movies on? It's a terrible, untenable situation. Now, I'm not worried, Rob, about studios having their own movie theaters, because studios know owning movie theaters is a money-losing proposition. They're not going to put up $25 billion to build 600 theater multiplexes across thing. They're not going to do it because they know they can't make any money at it. So I'm not worried about that. But all this other stuff I think is significant. Rob, let me ask you, somebody who's really steeped in the history of all this kind of stuff, are there upsides to them striking down this law? And how do you see it? Am I overstating the possible negative ramifications here? How do you see it?
No, first of all, I don't see that there's a lot of upsides. When I was a kid in the 80s, I had a friend, Craig Hyland, and we used to go to all of, we called them blind bidding screenings, because what that meant was these laws, like you read, prevented all the studio chains that would bid on movies from the studios would have to see them first, because they were getting burned. They were booking movies into their theater chains that weren't very good, and they were losing money. So it got to the point, because of the studio strong-arming tactics and because of these laws, the studios would have, or the studios would have to show their movies to the theater chains first, so they could know if they're going to make money or not. And I think rescinding those laws and making it so, what, are movie theater chains now going to have to bid on movies sight unseen again? This is a terrible, terrible thing for movie theaters, because what if they bid on movies that aren't good? Like, what if you're all excited about getting Catwoman in your theater, Pitoff's Catwoman, and then you've based your entire summer movie season around getting, well, what if you wind up with 3 Catwomen because you haven't seen these movies first? Where does that leave you? And at least all the studios had to, we go to CinemaCon, John, it's all the theater owners that are there. The studios are rolling out their product. They're trying to get theater owners to be excited about these new movies. Well, now the studios aren't going to have to do things like that anymore. They're just going to use these old school strong arm tactics, and it's not good for theater owners. And what studios also can do is they can start buying movie theaters themselves. And they can control all of both production and distribution of movies. And along with the streaming services they control, I don't think it's great for the consumer, and I certainly don't think it's great for the movie business.
And, it raises a lot of questions, too, because one of the things that the studios have been trying to push the theaters to do very quietly behind the scenes, the studios have been trying to push theaters to introduce tiered level ticket pricing. Now, some people think the idea of tier-leveled ticket pricing is a good thing. Well, wouldn't it be great? Like, I got to pay $15 for a ticket. Wouldn't it be great if I could go see Parasite for $7? Like, since that's a less attended, make it cheaper. That's not how it would work. If they introduce tier-level pricing, they're not going to use that as a solid foundation for lowering the ticket prices of other movies. They're going to use it as a pretext to up the ticket prices for the movies they want focused on. Okay, yes, movie theater number 1, we'll put in Black Panther 2 in your movie theater, sure, but because this is one of the things the laws limit. We specifically want you to charge $33 a ticket for Black Panther 2. But that's not what we charge for a ticket for admission. Doesn't matter. For this movie, for our movie, $32 for a ticket. And you got to charge that. It's not going to lower ticket prices on anything else. And listen, let me fully acknowledge here that these are all worst case scenarios that I'm painting.
Right.
They could strike down these laws and they may not turn out to be that bad or this bad. But it does give them the leeway to make it this bad if they so choose. And it's a bad decision. It would be a monumentally bad decision for the theater industry, for consumers. I just think this is a terrible, terrible situation. Again, I cannot highly recommend enough, guys. You guys head over to Slash Film, check out the article there, and several other places have done good pieces on it well, but I particularly like the piece over there. So go check that out, and then jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on. Oh, this will be interesting. To main topic number 2. And our second main topic today comes to us from Rokan Alzir, who writes,
oh boy.
So, Elizabeth Banks came out and said that Charlie's Angels bombed because men don't want to see women kick ass, as well as the fact that comic book films are a male-only genre, and said Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel don't count. What do you think? Maybe it'll seem less ominous if I do in the 1920s voice. So Elizabeth Banks came out and said no. So
you should do that with all of the
with all
topics.
the stories. Okay, this has been going around a lot over the last 24 hours. There is something very important that I want to point out before we go and read Elizabeth Banks' comments, and this is vitally important. The comments that Elizabeth Banks made are being portrayed by a lot of people as if she just said them yesterday in response to the box office results that Charlie's Angels got, when in fact, she made these comments nearly a week before the movie opened. Keep that in mind. Keep that it does change how we perceive her words a little bit when you understand that these words were spoken nearly a week before the movie opened. Now, it is also fair to say that she made these comments right around the time when updated box office projections came out and Charlie's Angels dropped significantly in the projections. But still, remember, the order of events here is not Charlie's Angels flopped and then she made these comments. No. And it does change how we perceive it. She made the comments first before it opened. So just keep that in mind. Now, with that said, here are the comments in question that Elizabeth Banks made. She said the following. Look, people have to buy tickets to this movie too. This movie has to make money, just like every movie. If this movie doesn't make money, it reinforces a stereotype in Hollywood that men don't go see women do action movies. They'll go and see comic book movies with Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel because that's a male genre. So even though those movies are about women, they put them in the context of feeding the larger comic book world. All right, I'm going to say something that is an inconvenient truth that nobody wants to hear, and it's going to be totally unpopular to say, but it's the truth. Sorry, so I'm going to say it. Because what everybody wants to do, everybody loves it when somebody says the wrong thing and then you get to gang pile on them. And I'll get to that in a second. But what Elizabeth Banks said in the first part of her statement, and nobody wants to hear this, is 100% true. What she said is 100% true. Listen, what is she saying? Okay, people have to buy movies to this ticket. This movie needs to make money too. Obviously, that's true. We all agree with that. Every movie needs that. Then she says, if this movie doesn't make money, it reinforces a stereotype in Hollywood that men don't go to see action movies. Okay, pause for a second. Is there not a stereotype out there that men don't go to see female action movies? Of course there's a stereotype. It's not that the stereotype is completely true. It's not that there aren't exceptions to it. But would you not agree that there is a stereotype out there? That's all she said. And there is a stereotype that sometimes we prove, sometimes we disprove, but there is a stereotype. Right or wrong, fair or unfair, there is a stereotype that men don't go see female action films. That's a stereotype. If Charlie's Angels flops, which we now know it does, is she not correct in saying that it kind of reinforces that stereotype a bit? Yeah, it does. Semantically speaking, what she is saying here is actually true. However, that being said, there is an implied message here, Rob, in her comments. And by the way, you know I love Elizabeth Banks.
Me too.
I love that. First of all, I've sat down and spoken with her on numerous occasions, and my heart goes all aflutter because she's so damn charming and wonderful in person. I think she's a terrific actress. She's getting better as a director. I wasn't all in on her as a director, but she's getting better as a director as well. I love this lady, completely do. But while she is accurate in saying there is this stereotype, I think if you're going to bring up the stereotype, you also have to mention the fact that there are several case studies that kind of go against the stereotype and disprove the stereotype. I also think that it kind of dispels or doesn't pay attention to the fact that, well then, why did Gemini Man fail? It's not female-centric, and it failed just like your movie. Did it fail because there's a stereotype that men don't want to go see female action-driven films? No, it didn't fail for that because it's Will Smith. There are several other films so you can't just say our film failed because of this and that. And again, these are comments she made before the movie opened, and I respect that. But Charlie's Angels did not fail because of a fair or unfair stereotype that men don't want to go see female action films. The previous incarnation of Charlie's Angels proved that men will. There's still a stereotype. There is, but men will. I mean, we all of us went to go see the first Charlie's Angels one, the one with Cameron Diaz and Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu. I love that movie. Not so much the second one. The first one's great. The reality is...
It's a hoot.
It is a hoot. The reality is, Rob, people didn't go to see this Charlie's Angels there's a small segment of people who don't want to go see any action film with somebody with boobs. I get it. But for the most part, people didn't go see this Charlie's Angels movie because, number one, the trailers were absolutely abysmal. They were terrible. The trailers did nothing to sell people on going to see this movie. And number two, you ain't getting positive word of mouth because it's just not that good of a movie. If you're going to have terrible trailers, you better back it up with one hell of a film. And listen, I didn't think Charlie's Angels was a garbage movie. It's not garbage, but it ain't very good either. And you cannot have a not very good movie backed up by a terrible marketing campaign on a third reboot of a property. It's a losing combination. So yes, what Elizabeth Banks said is true. There is a stereotype, and the flopping of Charlie's Angels does feed into that stereotype fairly or unfairly. However, that is not at all why this movie failed. It is not at all why people chose not to go see it. It is not at all why they're going to have to think twice about doing a Charlie's Angels 2. So that's just my point on that. Rob, you've seen this whole thing. How do you interpret it? What's your response to
I thought you did a pretty good job there, but people should remember, it wasn't like Elizabeth Banks went into the studio and pitched this idea. This was an idea that came from the studio. They looked for talent, what they found or what they thought was the best talent for the job. So Elizabeth Banks gave it her all as a director and writer of this. But I think what was the problem with Charlie's Angels fundamentally is you're trying to take an IP, which is Charlie's Angels, that was started to put three hot chicks on screen to not appeal to femininity or the empowerment of women. It was to attract dudes to watch a funny action show. I mean, I had that poster of Farrah Fawcett Majors as Jill Monroe on my wall, I think along with any red-blooded American, when Charlie's Angels came on TV. And so this is an IP that when they reinvented it, when McGee directed the first Charlie's Angels film, you had women that were at the top of their game. Cameron Diaz, she was a huge star. Drew Barrymore had come back, and Lucy Liu. These were huge stars at the time.
God, I love Lucy Liu.
Yeah, and they were huge stars at the time, starring in a movie where they took this admittedly goofy concept of Charlie's Angels and goofed it up even more. They knew what they were doing. It was wink, wink, nudge, nudge, tongue-in-cheek, but it was still fun to watch. I mean, it had kick-ass visuals, and this movie, I think, and I haven't seen it, but I could tell, I know, John, you've seen it. I think it was trying to do this female empowerment action thing, which is not even what Charlie's Angels is. Like, I think it really missed the point of its own IP. And it didn't. We have a lot of really interesting, we've seen Atomic Blonde. Lucy with ScarJo made a lot of money. That was a female action movie that people went to see. I mean, it made over, $100 million in this country. It's not like you can't do it. It's just that where this movie was taking this IP was wrong-headed from the get-go. Tom Rothman, I think, is really to blame. But I think her comments, Elizabeth Banks' comments, like John, you pointed out, are great. But I think that she was given an impossible thing to do, which was, on one hand, let's make it a modern female empowerment action film, and yet we're going to graft it into this IP, Charlie's Angels, that was never really about that. You know, it was always selling hot girls doing action stuff. And that's what Charlie's Angels was. And it just didn't work. And you can't blame Elizabeth Banks. You can't blame her comments because she busted her ass trying to make the best movie she could. I think this was really a mistake of the studio, just like it was a mistake. The same mistake was made in certain ways with Men in Black International. And I don't blame her for saying it. I don't think she should be pilloried for her comments. I think she's a very smart lady she's going to be making some great films in the future, and I look forward to seeing what they are.
And I think it would be fair to be more critical of her had she made these comments after the movie opened.
100%.
But it is so vital to keep in mind these were comments, because people are spreading these comments around, and they're real comments that she made, but they were made prior to the movie opening because she was making a philosophical observation at the time. Still, even though I'm defending her a little bit, there is an implication in her comments that, if people don't go see this, it's because of the stereotype. No, they didn't go see it because the trailers were awful. and didn't make anybody feel motivated to see. And by the way, I'm one of the people who's predisposed to going to see Charlie's Angels, because Kristen Stewart, for all the negative stuff she gets, she's like Robert Pattinson. She's coming out of the Twilight thing, but she's an incredibly gifted actress. I love Naomi Scott coming out of Aladdin. I really like Elizabeth Banks. I'm a fan of the last iteration. I'm your target audience, and I'm like, oh yeah, these trailers are horrible. I have no desire to see this.
Well, there was nothing, they didn't, like I was saying yesterday on the show, what do they offer modern audiences? It seemed, you could even tell from the trailer that they weren't really embracing the very concept of Charlie's Angels. They were trying to do it, they wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Here's 3 hot babes, but we're not going to lean into that. We're going to make it different than that.
But they do lean into that. I mean, you can see in the trailers too, like when you show a trailer of Kristen Stewart in shorts that go way above the ass cheek line,
right,
and then them in the dance club doing these like bend over moves. So they are playing to that, but it should have been funnier. It should have been more exciting, and you should have advertised it better. And that's where we're at. Anyway, guys, what do you guys make of all that? Does it change your perception a little bit, understanding the context of her comments? Maybe it doesn't change it at all. What do you think about it overall? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Tony Stank, who writes, "Hey, John, something that everyone is aware of in movies is the prequel curse. Movies like Star Wars prequels, The Hobbit, and Fantastic Beasts have failed to satisfy fans the way they were satisfied by what came before it. Considering that it's a prequel, do you think we should be worried about Black Widow not being as good as we want it to be since it's a prequel? Thanks, and keep doing what you're doing." All right, thanks a lot for the question, man. And seriously, Rob, honestly, you would be surprised how many times I've been sent a similar question to this one regarding Black Widow. Because, now look, I'm on record. I don't like the notion of prequels. Doesn't mean there aren't prequel movies that are done well and that I don't enjoy. Of course there are some, but in general, I don't like storytelling going backwards. I like storytelling moving forward. So when you're looking at something like a Black Widow, yeah, now look, we already know what happened to Black Widow and all that kind of stuff and blah, 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 blah. But you're talking about an MCU that has already delved in prequels. For example, Captain America: The First Avenger is, by definition, a prequel. in many, it is a prequel. Ant-Man and the Wasp was technically a prequel since it took place before the events of the previous film in the MCU that came out prior to it. So technically speaking. For me, Rob, here's the big differential between this is a prequel and what a standard prequel is. This movie, other than Scarlett Johansson, is all characters we've never seen before. We don't know what happens to any of them. We know what happens to ScarJo. ScarJo ain't dying. Spoiler alert, Black Widow doesn't die at the end of this movie. Spoiler alert. We know what eventually happens to her. However, unlike that one character, we really don't know what the outcome is going to be for any of the other individuals inhabiting this story. None of them. So on that basis alone, when you combine the fact that it really doesn't, we don't know how anything else in this story is going to work out, combined with the fact that the MCU's already delved a little bit into prequel stuff, I actually don't think this is going to be a problem for them right now, Rob. Anyway, how do you see it?
Well, I think you're right when you point out that we don't know. The thing about prequels is they're usually to successful movies where we've seen a full story, whether it's a series of movies, but a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the character's journey was designed to be told in that story, but it becomes successful, so they want to keep it going, so we get a prequel. But in the case of Black Widow, we always saw her in the context of other characters. She never had a story that was her own. She was introduced in Iron Man 2, and then she was part of an ensemble. So we've never actually seen a story about her. What happened to her? Where did she come from? What's her deal? We haven't seen that before. So while this is a prequel, it's not, we don't, and we know that she eventually dies, we've never seen a story that focused on her before. And I think that's the real difference, is that now we're going to see a Black Widow story that is completely unknown to us. And we're going to see a journey that she's going to go on that we have no idea what that necessarily is. And I think it's going to be like seeing a whole new movie. Now, she's died in a different arena, of course, but we've never seen Black Widow take a journey on her own that has a beginning, a middle, and an end that leaves her in a place that we later meet her in Iron Man 2 as a member, an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm very curious. I think it's different from our normal run-of-the-mill sequel, and for that reason, I'm still excited about it. I don't even consider it a prequel. I just think of it as a story that will illuminate the character that we've already come to know and love.
Now, I don't think this takes place after the events of Iron Man 2 and 3, though, does it not?
I don't know.
I'm not wondering. I think they've said, but I can't remember. I don't think it's that early.
Too, but who knows? I'm not really sure. I thought we delved deeper into her past, like it covers multiple time periods.
Yeah, they've done that a couple times. I'll be honest with you. I'm not excited for this film. I've always said there's a lot of movies you can do in the MCU, and while I love the Hawkeye character and I love the Black Widow character, and I love the role they play in the films, I've never been interested in a standalone movie about either of them. And now we're getting a Hawkeye series, and we're getting a Black Widow movie. So I don't know. And they showed us a bunch of footage at D23. I'll be honest, I wasn't all that excited by what I saw, but who knows? Who knows? It might be spectacular. We'll have to wait and find out. Question is, guys, do you think there's going to be any kind of a prequel curse when it comes to Black Widow? Jump down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 4. And our fourth main topic today gets submitted to us by Ashish, who writes, now that Joker has joined the $1 billion club, making it 7 movies to reach that feat this year alone, we have two almost guaranteed $1 billion movies coming up, Frozen 2 and Star Wars Episode 9, and one maybe with Jumanji 2. Do you think we would get 10 movies to reach the $1 billion club in just one calendar year? All right, thanks a lot for that, for sending that in, Ashish. And the reality is this. Going into 2019, we did a lot of shows, Rob, and a lot of videos about this year is going to be crazy big.
Yep.
I mean, we could have 6 or 7 billion-dollar films. And every film that we thought could hit $1 billion, and even 1 or 2 that we didn't, has blown by those numbers. And we still have a couple left to come. Guys, this is one of those things that I think is really easy for us just to glance over and take for granted. This has never happened in history, and it's going to be a few years before this ever happens again.
It's never even come close to happening.
Never come close. This is such... Look at this chart, guys. As you said, we've already got 7 films. Already a record. Joining the $1 billion club. We got Toy Story 4, The Lion King, which is the second biggest film of the year, Captain Marvel, Avengers Endgame, obviously, Aladdin made $1 billion, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Joker have joined the $1 billion club. You're right. There are 2 almost guaranteed locks that are still to make $1 billion. Frozen 2, now that I've seen it, the only thing that was going to stop Frozen 2 from reaching the $1 billion mark, I thought, is if it wasn't very good and it got bad. This is a very, very good movie. So Frozen 2 is probably pretty much a guaranteed lock to get to that $1 billion mark. Star Wars Rise of Skywalker is going to get $1 billion. Not going to get 2. Sorry, everybody. It's not going to get 2, but it's going to get $1 billion. And the last Jumanji movie came within a breath of $1 billion, and everybody loved it. And the newest trailers for Jumanji for the new Jumanji have been very, very good.
It looks really good.
I wasn't blown away by the first. I got to admit, I wasn't blown away by the first trailer for the new Jumanji, but the subsequent trailers, I'm really back on board with it. So I'm not going to say it's a guaranteed lock, because who knows? But that potentially, so we've got 9, and it could be 10. Rob, when you look at the forthcoming Frozen, Jumanji, Star Wars, are there any of these that you think, no, you know what, these aren't going to hit the $1 billion mark. They're not going to do that well. And then put it for us in a little bit of historical context about really how much of a big deal this really is that we could have this many films hitting that mark.
Well, first of all, I think all 3 do have the potential to gross $1 billion. I mean, like with anything, it comes down to how good the movie is. The fact that we've had this many $1 billion grossers is frankly insane. It's crazy, and it's in a way I think a byproduct of it is that now people expect it. Now there's been enough. There's been enough of a pattern. There's been enough. Now studios, that's going to be what they're chasing now. Well, if it didn't make $1 billion, it's not good.
Okay, is it fair to say, Rob, that I think a lot of the movie-going audience is guilty of becoming desensitized to just what a ridiculous achievement hitting $1 billion is with the film?
I mean, absolutely.
We take it for granted now, don't we?
We take it for granted. And look, what's really interesting is movie-going has become... It's obviously, these are spectacles. These are pop culture events that people want to take part in. And that's great for big franchise movies that are delivering, because these films are indeed delivering. If these movies weren't good, if they were garbage fires, they're not going to make $1 billion. There's a level of quality in these films as well. I mean, people were poo-pooing Aladdin. Turned out that it was something that was quite crowd-pleasing. Turned out to be better than I thought it was going to be.
I'm not going to lie. I love Aladdin. I think it's great.
And these movies are making $1 billion because they're good. Now, a lot of people are talking about how, oh, well, you know, it's marketing and it's just studio pablum. It's just product. Yes, but it's very good product. And if you're going to an amusement park, you want the roller coasters to be good. Well, if you go see a big franchise movie, you want them to be good, and they are delivering. So I think that's the thing we have to remember, is that these films are delivering, and I hope they keep delivering. I don't know if they can deliver. I think we're also, it's not just that they're making $1 billion. We're very lucky to be given a streak of movies that are as good as these films are, because we've seen just as many, whether it's Charlie's Angels, whether it's Men in Black International, whether it's Terminator Dark Fate. Everybody thought these movies probably were going to make $1 billion too, but they didn't. So we're getting good movies that are earning this amount of money, but it is not the new normal. We should not think of it as the new normal. It's not something, like you said, that's going to happen in a long time. I don't think it's going to happen next year or the year after necessarily, because we can't expect that movies, and we shouldn't say that, well, it only grossed $800 million, so it's just, what a disappointment that was. Again, it comes down to, we talked about profit, but it's also return on investment. How much does a movie cost? Joker, if we're living in a world where $50 or $60 million movies are grossing $1 billion, that's a game changer. If that starts happening, but it's not.
That's
it's
not
still
going to
an
become the
anomaly.
norm. That's
not
going to become
the norm,
and
it's still hard. But what I like to see, the most important thing about this, John, is that people love the movies. People are going out to movies, and hopefully we'll be getting more and more better films. Look at how these are all very diverse films. So it's nice to see this happening.
And to your point, I mean, when you look at the $1 billion films this year, Toy Story 4 is wonderful. Lion King is divisive. I don't care. I'll stand on. I think it's wonderful. I thought the Lion King was wonderful. Screw y'all if you don't like it. Captain Marvel was wonderful. I mean, not the best of the MCU movies. I don't put it up there, but it was crowd pleasing and people really enjoyed it.
I did.
Avengers Endgame. Well, obviously, Avengers Endgame. Aladdin was delightful. Spider-Man: Far From Home was delightful. Joker was such a great surprise, and Frozen 2 is better than I thought. Who knows what we're going to get with Jumanji or Star Wars: Rise of Skywalker? Maybe they'll be utter gutter trash. We don't know. Maybe they'll be worthy of the $2 billion mark. We won't know. But it has been one hell of a year. Question is, guys, what do you think about this year? Do you think we're going to hit the big double-digit films getting to the $1 billion mark? We're already well into the record territory. How much further do you think it can go? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to our fifth and final main topic today. And our fifth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Kendall Ellie, who writes, "Hey, John, huge fan of the show. Thank you so much, Kendall. You guys steal most of my time away." So the new Chadwick Boseman-led flick, 21 Bridges, is less than a week away and still no reviews. Do you think we've had a stinker on our hands? From the trailer and cast alone, I just can't see this film being that bad. What are your thoughts? Thanks, and bring on the filthy. All right, thanks a lot for sending that question, man. And listen, one of the films that I was really excited about, and give me a second here as I bring up, because I want to make sure I get the most current and up-to-date numbers. 21 Bridges is a movie that I have been very excited about seeing.
Yeah, ever since CinemaCon.
First of all, it's the first post-Avengers Endgame film. This movie is primarily a production of, what is it, Agbo
Yeah.
I think it's Agbo or Abgo. I think it's Agbo. But what the hell is that? That is the Russo brothers production company. They are the producers of this film. Their production company is the main production company behind this, and they're working with their Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. And I thought the trailer, the preview we saw, Rob, back in April at CinemaCon, wonderful. Yeah. I thought it looked great. Now, I did get invited to go see a screening of 21 Bridges about a week ago, but unfortunately, the screening was in Beverly Hills, and John don't go to Beverly Hills. It's just a pain in the ass to get there. So I didn't go to the screening. So I thought, I'm fine. I'll wait for it to come out. And up until when I got that email, you're right. The review embargo had not yet been lifted. As of last night, though, the review embargo had been lifted. Maybe they should have kept it in place. Now, let me rephrase that. It is not dumpster fire horrible territory.
It's not like The Kitchen.
It's not like 25%. But as of right now, 21 Bridges is holding a 41% on Rotten Tomatoes. And it should be noted, a lot of the outlets that love the Russo brothers are the ones that are saying it's not so good. We got Variety is saying it's not any good. Well, I mean, for instance, Peter DeBurge from Variety, who loves the Russo brothers, by the way, wrote, dark, cynical, and nearly slick enough to disguise how stupid it is. Nearly.
Oh, no.
The Wrap did not like it. Hollywood Reporter did not like it. Slash Film did not like it. My buddy Don Kay over at Den of Geek did not like it. I mean, now Empire Magazine liked it, though. Empire Magazine wrote a refreshing break from VFX-laden spectaculars and a throwback to the pulpy cop thrillers of yesteryear, if not quite strong enough to ensure that Boseman's righteous cop gets his own franchise. So they liked it. And Rob, I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed. Now, I haven't seen the movie yet myself, and I'm still planning on going to see it. I'm absolutely 100% still planning on going to see it myself. But hearing this is disappointing to me on 3 different levels. Level number 1, where my anticipation was. Mm-hmm. I was just excited to hear about this, so I'm disappointed to hear it there. Number 2, I am a big Chadwick Boseman fan.
Me too.
I mean, going all the way back to his James Brown movie and his the baseball one he did, in which I'm freezing on. Anyway, I've loved Chadwick Boseman for a while as an actor, and so when they announced him as Black Panther, as T'Challa, I was like, hey! So I was all excited to see this first big movie of his post being Black Panther. Disappointed to see that. Also really fascinated to see what can the Russos do when Kevin Feige isn't holding their hand.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying this is going to be indicative of what we can expect moving forward. And again, I might go see this movie and I might think it's the best movie of the year. But I'm just getting a little bit concerned seeing this. Rob, you're hearing the response. First of all, clearly the studio, they knew that the movie wasn't that great because they held the review right up until yesterday. And now that they're coming out, they're not spectacular. Not the worst reviews, not the worst, but not great either. What's your response to this and what you're seeing?
Well, like you, I love Chad Boseman. I love Chad Boseman so much that my hot toy figure of Black Panther, I don't have the Black Panther head on. I have the Chad Boseman head on because I just love that guy. And I want him to succeed. I think he's an incredible actor. He's a great, gifted performer. And the idea of him playing the last honest cop, this hard-boiled guy, and he only goes after cop killers or whatever.
By the way, 42 was the movie I was thinking of.
Oh, right. 40, yeah. I mean, I'm in. I love cop movies, and I miss the days where we get a To Live and Die in L.A., even though that was about Secret Service agents, or French Connection, or something like that. And I was really looking forward to this movie, and to hear that it's only okay bums me out, John. I'm bummed. I'm going to go see it anyway, because I just like cop thrillers even when they're not so good, and I like Chad Boseman, and the movie looks like it's beautifully made. We'll see. But I had really high hopes for this. I've had high hopes for this since we saw it. But you know what? It did kind of get lost in the shuffle. I forgot. There's another movie that came out recently.
They didn't promote it heavily either. They kind of let it get lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Yeah. And there was that other cop thriller that just came out. with the who plays Moneypenny, in the Bond film. She starred in it.
Oh, yes, with Tyrese.
With Tyrese. And I want to say it's like, is it Black and Blue or just Blue? I don't remember. But I wanted to see that, and I didn't go see that. And that was middling. It got middling reviews too. And I was excited for this. I'm going to go see it anyway, but I really wish I wanted more for this, John. I really did.
Again, just the movie itself, for Chadwick Boseman, for the Russo brothers. Question is, guys, and I meant to make this a topic of the question of the day, but I forgot to put the poll up. So I can just ask you guys to jump on down. Like, what do you think? Like, let's assume for a second, and this is a big assumption that could totally be not true. Because again, maybe I'll go see the movie on Thursday and I'll fall in love with it and I'll think it's the greatest movie of the year. Who knows? But if it does hold here and it's an underwhelming and unfortunate movie, how much does that kill your enthusiasm? Not just kind of we were hoping to see, something great for Chadwick Boseman post Black Panther. Maybe we're excited to see that the Russos, maybe not everything the Russos touch turned to gold. Maybe without Feige holding their hand, who knows? I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see, but I'm kind of let down on a lot of levels. But I'm going to go see it on Thursday. I'm going to keep the torch lit and keep hope alive. Question is, guys, what do you think about that? Jump down to the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all that down, we're going to go over and start taking your live questions. But before we do, we're going to take just a quick 4-minute break here. We're going to stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, refill our drinks. So if you guys will indulge us for just a couple of minutes and hang in there, we will be right back. Don't go anywhere. And we are back. Thank you guys for your indulgence as we took a couple of minutes there to get rested up. But now let's keep on rolling with your live questions. And we're going to get things started with the live questions with Kevin Lewis, who writes, on the 7th episode of Man in the High Castle, developing too slow. Listen, I've always wanted to watch that show. I've never gotten around to it. I've heard it's a very slow burn, but I've also heard it's good. I'm going to check it out at some point. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, do you think Marvel is still going to mostly focus on obvious characters in future, or might they throw us another Moon Knight level curveball? Well, listen, they're throwing us Miss Marvel, and they're throwing us She-Hulk, and they're throwing us Moon Knight, and they're doing a lot of curveball throwing already here, aren't they, Rob?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Miss Marvel and She-Hulk were not what I would have thought we'd be getting, but we're getting them.
Very surprised.
But there's a lot of Marvel characters out there, and they've barely scratched the surface, so who knows?
Yeah, and then look, we've already established that we think in 2022, 2023, there's going to be a lot of familiar faces too, but they are going to work in some new ones as well. I mean, Blade is just an example of that. They're bringing a lot of new stuff on Disney Plus as well, so let's see what they do. Just Me writes, went to an early screening of Just Mercy. Ooh, I want to see that one. Just Mercy at my college, great film from the director. Now I'm really excited to see what he does with Shang-Chi. First of all, the movie itself looks fantastic.
It really does.
Michael B. Jordan is a world-class actor already. You got an Academy Award winner, Jamie Foxx, in there. You got Academy Award winner, Brie Larson, in there. Based on true story stuff, I'm always a sucker for, so it looks great. And it gives us a little bit of thing into Shang-Chi. Have you been hearing anything about the film at this point, Rob?
I've read a lot about it, and I know everyone says it's quite good. It's right. I love stories like that. I love legal thrillers, like let's get an innocent man off. That's like catnip to me. So I can't wait to see this movie.
I'm excited about it too. All right, Benny95 writes, just watch the first X2 episodes, or the first 2 episodes of Mandalorian, and have to say it's quite good. Second episode was better than the first, but keen to see where they go with it. I completely agree. I liked the first episode. I did. It set the table really nice. But I really did think episode 2 was a step up. I love the way they just use visual storytelling. I love that there's such a simplicity to the mythology of it all, the whole gritty Western feel of it. I just love what they're doing with it so far, Benny. Can't wait to see the next episode on Friday. So we do have to wait till Friday. By the way, I believe the next episode is only going to be another 35 minutes. So just so everybody's prepared. All right, Kevin Lewis writes, MCU 2022 and 2023, Black Panther 2, Captain Marvel 2, Ant-Man 3, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Blade, Avengers 5, Fantastic Four, and Ghost Rider. I really doubt Ghost Rider. They couldn't even get a TV show, a cheaper TV show going with them. And with it being tied into the MCU already, I don't think they will. But Rob, I mean, Kevin Feige's pulled some curveballs before.
Hey,
what would you set the percentage chance at that we'd see a Ghost Rider movie?
Oh, less than 20%.
I go less than 5.
Yeah, probably. But we've had Ghost Rider movies, so there's something about Ghost Rider that appeals to the 8-year-old in me. I want to see somebody driving around in leather with a flaming skull head on their chopper with chains and stuff. Who doesn't want to see that?
Yeah, we'll see. All right, Leach Crow writes, saw Ford v Ferrari this weekend, loved it, wish there was more engineering scenes. The ones we got felt like Apollo 13, but maybe it's just Ray McKinnon. I thought it was a really nice balance to appeal to a lot of the audience. They weren't just going for look, they know a lot of gearheads are going to go see this movie because of what it is, but they also know a lot of the other. I thought it was a nice balance myself, Rob. What did you think?
I did too. I mean, look, you still have to tell a story about these two guys and what they were up against and what they were trying to do. And, I thought it was a great balance all the way around. I found this movie to be wildly entertaining from beginning to end.
All right, Michael French writes, any idea about if The Mandalorian will be closer to 30 or 60 minutes as an episode moving forward? I believe it's going to be closer to 30. I believe I've already heard that the next episode is 35 minutes, and it's probably, I'm guessing, going to stay around there. And then I'm guessing that the final episode will probably be a little bit longer, just like the first episode was a little bit longer. So we'll see. I don't know that for a fact, though. We'll have to see. Film Boss writes, hi, have you any idea how much a trailer house would charge to cut a trailer for a studio? Would Star Wars / Ford v Ferrari be charged at different rates? Well, I've known some people that worked at trailer houses, but Rob, I've never actually known. Like, do you have any sort of ballpark figure what a trailer house would charge?
Oh, it's for a studio. I've never worked at a trailer house where I've worked at that level. I mean, I cut low budget studio trailers, but trailers can be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on which house you're going to, how many iterations of the trailer that sometimes you have to make 10 different trailers before somebody decides on it. So it's wildly divergent. But when you're dealing with a studio and an A-list movie, they're pretty comparable. Just because it's a Star Wars movie doesn't mean they're going to charge to make. They're going to charge the trailer house is not going to charge. It's still just a trailer.
Yeah, but we've seen it's probably well worth it because look what happens when you've got garbage trailers and you don't entice the audience to come.
Oh no, you got to pay. People have to know what they're doing.
All right, next up, Lee Crow writes, been keeping up with his Dark Materials. I love it so far. Also really loved episode 5 of Watchmen. Getting better every week. Number one, I have not been keeping up with his Dark Materials, but I will because I really did quite enjoy the first episode. I watched the first episode, liked it very much. I was not a huge fan of episode 4 of Watchmen. I did quite like episode 5 quite a bit. So I know, Rob, have you kept up? Are you up to episode 5 yet on Watchmen?
Oh, yeah. I can't decide if I really, really like Watchmen or I hate it with the fire of 10,000 burning suns. I know this. I love watching it, and I think it is absolutely probably the most pretentious genre show that I've ever seen. But as a Watchmen fan, there's a lot to love there.
All right, let's see. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, saw Le Mans 66. That's, of course, Ford v Ferrari. Last Friday, like I said, loved it. Yeah, I loved it, too. I know Rob loved it. Right now, it's my number 4 favorite movie of the year. Jake C. writes, long have I waited. Rewatched Return of the Jedi. The dude gets incinerated in this gigantic fire from hell. Where was this pile of ash waiting for 3 years? Just to be clear, Jake, we never see him do anything. He disappears down a shaft, and after that, we don't see what happens to him. Now, whether that plays into what's going on in the next movie or not, we don't know. It's just, again, if you don't see it happen, it may not have happened. So just something to keep in mind.
All right. He has unlimited power, John.
Unlimited power! All right, let's see. Casinema Reviews writes, I'm not saying he would/should be, but if the Mandalorian never takes off his mask this season, would Pedro Pascal qualify for an Emmy nomination? Yes. Yeah, he would still qualify. Doesn't mean he would get a nomination, though. And to be quite frank, as much as I love Pedro Pascal, and I'm always singing his praises, it's just a lot of lines like this behind a mask. Don't get me wrong, he's playing it perfectly, but technically, he would qualify, I believe, Rob. Are you aware of any rules?
No, but I have to tell you something. I think there's something tremendously fishy going on, to be honest. I know Pedro Pascal's playing the Mandalorian, but he doesn't move like he moved in Game of Thrones. In Game of Thrones, he like when he walks, there's just and we just hear his voice. That could be anybody. I mean, it could be anybody under that armor. I think there's something we don't know quite yet that's happening.
All right. Kevin Lewis writes, for me, the scariest horror films are based on real events, quote unquote real events, i.e. Amityville Horror, Conjuring, The Entity, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, me, easy, Jaws. That's not many people know that's a documentary. Jaws scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. But no, you're absolutely right. There is a creepier element, Rob, when you're watching a movie like that. And whether you believe it or not, even just knowing this is based on actual stories, whether they're real events or not is up to the individual, but knowing that they're actually based around stories that have been told, I mean, it adds another level of creepiness to it, doesn't it?
I think so too. And my favorite horror films are the horror films that, like, look, Exorcist, I always use the word verisimilitude. It's totally based. There isn't a lot of the fantastical happening, even though, she turns her head around. It's played like it's relentlessly realistic, happening in our world today. I love when movies can do that, as opposed to, say, movies like Hellraiser or Nightmare on Elm Street that are balls-to-the-wall fantasies. But when they are set in the real world, like A Conjuring or like The Exorcist, I agree. Those are my favorite kind of horror films.
Nathan Oswald writes, birthdays. I like it when they send in the birthdays. Adam Driver is 36. Jason Scott Lee is 53. Jodie Foster, 57. Meg Ryan, 58. Allison Janney, 60. She's amazing.
Amazing.
Calvin Klein is 77. And Larry King turns the age that he looked like 23 years ago. He turns 86. I love Larry King. Actually, a buddy of mine worked on the Larry King show.
Oh, really?
Like, not the one he did on CNN, but on the he then did his streaming show. A buddy of mine worked with him on that, which I thought was kind of interesting.
God love these guys like Clint Eastwood pushing 90, directing Richard Jewell.
I can't wait to see that.
You've got Larry King, 86, on TV, doing interviews. What a way to live your life. Go, guys. You go.
Next up here, Noah Jupe may be one of my new favorite youth actors. I think he's the kid in Ford v Ferrari. Does he not play?
I think
Bale's
he is.
kid. Yeah,
yes.
I liked
he was
him in that.
great. I loved Bale's family in the movie.
Oh yeah. I love the relationship between him and the wife. Again, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but yeah, I really did like the performances there. Kevin Lewis writes, John, you said you have a fear of heights. I do, but how about movie heights? Watch Terminator, Dark Fate, and got ill watching the falling planes and edge of the dam scene. You know what's really weird? No, here's the funny thing. I have a terrible fear of heights. In movies, it never bothers me, but go do the Transformers ride at Universal Studios, or go on Star Tours, the Star Wars ride at Disney. When you're feeling the heights, when it really immerses you in it, then I can feel, because I'll walk I walk out of Star Tours. Whenever Ann and I would go to Disneyland, this is obviously before Galaxy's Edge ever opened, and we would do Star Tours, but we always had to make sure it was the final thing we did that day, because I would not feel right after doing I would feel queasy and a little bit nauseous.
Wow.
Because the heights thing, it's a big thing. But in a movie theater, no, it never would bother me. Actually, interesting question, Kevin. Thank you for asking. Shamanth writes, favorite Meryl Streep performance. You know what? I know it's recent, but the one she just did with Tom Hanks, I loved her in that. The one where she owns a newspaper. She was, as much as it's a little bit of a comedy, she was great in Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, yeah.
I always have to go back to Sophie's Choice, though.
You know what? I was going to say that because that kills me. Yeah, but even her older stuff, like whether it's Deer Hunter or even back to what is it, Annie Hall, or is it Annie Hall or is it Manhattan?
I don't think she wasn't in Annie Hall.
Yeah, it's Manhattan. When she plays Woody Allen's ex-wife.
All right, next up, Richard Crotty writes, I think there are 3 choices for the last Marvel movie of the newly announced slate. You said Wolverine. Robert said Fantastic Four. I think a standalone Hulk. Unfortunately, it can't be a standalone Hulk because as of right now, pending behind the doors secret machinations, as of right now, the situation with Disney and Universal has not changed. Universal has the distribution rights to Hulk, which means any movie that Marvel makes with Hulk, which they can if they want, Disney gets to be the distributor of it. Marvel has no interest in making a movie that Universal then gets to distribute. So they've been at a stalemate for a long time. So until that problem gets fixed, we're not going to see another Hulk movie. They can't make a standalone Hulk project, not a Disney Plus show, not a whatever. They can't do it. So that would have to get fixed first, Richard. Leo Milmit writes, saw Deer Hunter for the first time. Cry time, 10 out of 10. That, listen, I still remember the first time I watched Deer Hunter. It is not the movie I thought it was going to be when you first go into it. It hits you out of left field a couple of times in that film.
First time I saw Deer Hunter, John, I was what 11 or 12, and my mom took me to see it because it was up for an Oscar.
Oh my God.
Yeah, those Russian roulette scenes. Yeah.
Not the movie you think it's going to be. But it's one of the classics. Kevin Lewis writes, over under 30%, Robert Meyer Burnett owns a members-only jacket.
Okay.
He seems like he would, but I'm going to say no.
I don't own one now, but I was a members-only I was a card-carrying member of the members-only jacket club. I loved members-only jackets. I have one that's vaguely similar. I have a Guess jacket that I've had about 10 years that looks vaguely members-only-esque. I don't know if you can get away with wearing a members-only jacket today, although I'm old enough that people just look at that old guy. Oh, look at the old guy in the members-only jacket.
James Lockman writes, maybe that egg in episode 2, we're talking about the Mandalorian, is an aphrodisiac. I mean, he did after all disintegrate a few Jawas, and they need to bring their numbers back up. The way they were going at that egg, you think it was Viagra. Well, I don't want to talk too much about the episode. I mean, it is a show and not a movie, but I still want to go too much into it. But it's like, yeah, man, they're willing to give up a lot for that egg. I mean, they love their snacks. Jawas love their snacks, man. I mean,
it's like a Cadbury Easter egg.
Yes. Is it totally a Cadbury? I tell you, James, they love that snack, whatever it was. Green Arrow 7 writes, you get to be an extra in a Star Wars movie for a day, but Your scene consists of you eating ketchup and eggs all day. Do you do it? I wouldn't be able to. I would vomit, and they'd have to carry me off set. So there's not much I wouldn't do to be an extra on the set of a Star Wars movie, but it has to be something I'm physically capable of doing, and I'm just not physically capable of doing that. James Lockman writes, now I want a Baby Yoda Funko Pop, and I want to see a Baby Maul, Baby Jabba, Baby Greedo, Baby Lobot, Baby Lobot, etc. Spoken I have, yes, and listen, my wife has got Baby Yoda on her phone, like her lock screen picture is Baby Yoda, and every once in a while, she'll just turn on her lock screen and just go, just so she can, I swear to God, at least 10 times a day, she'll just turn on her lock screen just so she can look at Baby Yoda.
Are they going to have those out for the holidays?
They're fools if they don't.
What a misstep that would be if they didn't.
Yeah. It reminds me, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, nobody had secured the rights to Baby Groot. And that last scene happens, and Anne is like, see this, yes, I still can't believe we didn't get the toy rights to that. It's like, what? Yeah, nobody moved to secure the toy rights in that. So who's got? No, as of right now, nobody. It's like, what? And there wasn't Baby Groot toys available when the movie came out initially. That Baby Yoda would be another big missed opportunity if that's, I don't know if that's the case or not. James Lockman also writes, John, regarding your love for that wonderful PS4 controller, you must unlearn what you have learned with mouse and keyboard. You must feel the force around you, between you, the TV, and the PS4 controller. Not going to happen. Although I have been using it because I have no choice. I have been using it to play Fallen Order. Yeah. I have been using it to play Fallen Order. But I have a very much hate relationship with the PS4 controller. With any console game controller. It hates me and I hate it, but I've been using it to kind of get through the game. Kevin Luce writes, recent movie flops, ditch cookie cutter ideas. Here's the problem, Kevin. What one person calls a cookie cutter idea, another person may not. There's a lot of originality even in some of the flops and some of the biggest hits. Endgame has a lot of cookie cutter fan service, just presented in a magnificently glorious, entertaining way. So you got to be careful about just making generalization statements like that. John Watkin writes, 23 MCU films over 10 years, and now we'll get another 14 in the upcoming 4 years. Crazy. Looks like an eventual Endgame level event down the line. And don't forget, of course, all the stuff that we're getting on Disney Plus, which is going to add to the brouhaha that we have coming on the way. Lewis writes, a beautiful day was sweet as expected. Hanks was great. It's one of those that everybody should see. Dude, clearly you saw an early fan event. Well, I can't even begin to say how excited I am. I only have 2 movies that I'm more excited for than this new Mr. Rogers movie. One is obviously Star Wars, and the other is Knives Out, which I'm seeing this Friday.
Right. Very excited for both of those too.
Other than that, that's the next one I'm most excited about. So I hope it lives up to my excitement.
Well, I also want to see The Damn Irishman, but it's going to be on Netflix, so I'm going to see it. But I want to see it in a theater, John, and this is my last opportunity.
Didn't you have tickets for it like twice?
I only actually had tickets once.
Oh, that's right. You tried to get tickets the one time. Then you did get tickets another time.
But this has been an ongoing thing in my life, and I feel like I'm an abject failure because of it.
You're not. Kevin Lewis writes, 2020's comic book and White House intrigue movies. Sure. James, I don't know exactly what it is you're asking, but sure. James Welsh writes, these days, unfortunately, you can get a pirated quality copy of a movie quicker than ever. Within 24 hours of a film release, no wonder movies struggle. I don't really think that's as big. Actually, you know what? MPA put out numbers that there's not actually as much piracy that goes on today as there was about 4 years ago.
Right.
It's actually, the studies are showing it's actually gone down a little bit. But Mandalorian's going to change all that globally, no doubt. And it's absolutely still a problem, James. It absolutely still is a problem. So Finn Staccated writes, have you seen We Need to Talk About Kevin? Oh, yes. That's the one with the ancient one.
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton. Oh, brilliant.
Over or under 50%. I own that on Blu-ray.
Oh, I have no doubt. But that half of that movie, you're just like,
dude.
What?
Yeah.
And the tension and the awkwardness
and talk about the Flash acting in such a way that you wouldn't expect him to. He was so good in that movie.
Let's see. Where are we at right now? Ryan Lohner writes, twist ending. The Mandalorian takes off his helmet and it's and it's James Dean wrapping in all the topics together. Tom Gillard writes, this is not a joke. I enjoyed the Jedi Rocks number. Not the scene, but the song itself, can we still be friends? Here's the thing. I couldn't tell you if I honestly, I don't know. If I had heard that song in a different context outside of Star Wars, and I just played, and they just played that song, and somebody said this is supposed to be like a popular galactic musical group at that time, and I just heard the song, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have minded it either. It's just that I did see it in context. And I saw it ruining an otherwise great scene. And yeah, there's that. I don't know, Rob.
Dude, I just watched, Elizabeth went on her Star Wars kick, and I got to that scene. I was in the room when she got there on Jedi. I'm like, you added that to this movie? Dude.
So bad.
It's so bad.
Yeah, pretty damn
And
bad.
you know what? I didn't have it out for Cy Snoodles and the Rebo Band until that number.
It changes perspective, doesn't it? All right. Clever to Swear writes, who's the worst actor, Quentin Tarantino or M. Night? I tell you what, I actually get a little bit of a kick. Out of all the cheesiness with Quentin Tarantino when he does his spots, I get a kick out of him. M. Night is truly a terrible actor. Truly, truly terrible actor. Willow Yang writes, I too enjoyed The Accountant. I think it's great seeing an autistic character be an action hero. Do you think the sequel will actually happen? Listen, they keep saying they're going to do a sequel and that they're still kind of circling it. I've run out of hope. I love this movie, and they should have done a sequel, and more people should have gone see this movie because it's great. But not enough people did, and I think they probably second guessed it. I have a feeling that they intended at one point. I don't think they will. I sure hope they do. Rob, do you think it's ever actually going to happen?
Probably not, although I would love to see it. Or maybe it's a Warner Brothers movie. So maybe they could have the accountant character actually become Batman and fight Joaquin Phoenix as Joker.
There you go. There you go. There's a number of issues all rolled into one. I love it. All right. Adam Helmbert writes, the amount of money the MCU has made, you could build 2 United States aircraft carriers at $12 billion each. Puts that in perspective, doesn't it? That's actually a really good number to bring up.
I'm glad somebody did that because that's actually very fascinating.
That's actually, you know what? Not many people know this. That's actually what Bob Iger is doing. He's actually building his own military force.
Yeah, that's the next thing they announce.
All right. Last question we get to ask here with Robert here. Luke Woodward writes, I saw a cockroach crawling around in the theater right by me while I was watching The Lighthouse. Completely took me out of the movie. And it was a nice theater too. Not a good experience. That is unfortunate. Yes, that absolutely sucks. But you know what? I often feel bad because, like, as clean, you can keep a place immaculately clean, do everything right. But if some bug outside slips in one time, I wouldn't hold it against the theater too awful much unless it becomes a pattern. If it becomes a pattern and a regular thing, well, that's different. But I often feel bad, especially if you were saying it's a really nice theater, so that's unfortunate. I don't blame you, Luke. That would take me out of it. I mean, it absolutely would. I remember being in a movie theater once, and a couple of rats ran across the front, the front of the thing. It was the AMC Burbank 16, and it was. I don't know if you remember this, Rob. It was about 6 years ago. We had about 4 days straight. This is very unusual in Southern California. Keep this in mind. 4 days straight of torrential rain, and what happened was, there's not a lot of rats around here at all. This is New York City. Like, I've never seen one. I'd never seen a rat here before. But any that were around were looking for places to get out of the water and get out of the rain.
Rats gotta be dry too,
yeah. And a bunch of them found a way to get into the movie theater, and it was quite a big issue around. And absolutely, I just saw a rat from a distance. I was completely distracted. I just wanted to get out of the theater. So if you're sitting there watching a movie and all of a sudden you see cockroaches walking by your feet, I mean, in New York, it's probably a regular thing, but anywhere else, you're probably not used to that. And I can't. You ever had something like that happen to you, Rob?
I haven't. But with all the soda stick and the popcorn on the ground, I mean, I would think that a movie theater would be quite a nice place. Half the day it's dark and nobody knows you're there, and they play the movies the other half of the day where you hide. But if I was a cockroach, I think a movie theater would be a nice place to hang out.
Yeah, except they'll exterminate you pretty quick once they discover you're there. That's
true.
Part of the problem. Anyway, hey, Rob, listen, we know you got a split. Thanks a lot for being here, man. Where can people find you and your exploits online in the meantime?
You can find me on Twitter at BurnettRM. Find me on Instagram at RMBurnett, or find me on my own YouTube channel, the Burnettwork and its website, theburnettwork.net.
All right, dude. And everybody, make sure you go and check those things out. And Rob, we will talk to you tomorrow, brother.
All right.
All right, let's keep things going. We still got about another 15 minutes here of time because we, of course, got started late because we misfired when we tried earlier. Fan of Peanuts writes, one of two, woke up hella early for Mandalorian episode 3 this morning. You should have looked up the schedule. It doesn't actually come out till Friday. Woke up hella early for Mandalorian episode 3 this morning. To my dismay and crushing disappointment, I found out I have to wait until Friday moving forward. Yes, it's only going to come out on Fridays now until the final part, which, anyway, the schedule is out and available for everybody to see, but it's going to be Fridays for the next couple of weeks. Luke Woodward writes, if you haven't seen Harriet yet, it's a great movie. I tried to go see Harriet the other day, and then something came up and I couldn't. And I still haven't seen it, and I still want to see this movie, actually, and I've heard decent things about it. All right, Fan of Peanuts writes, number 2, failed. So, I was looking but can't find the option to upgrade to the Disney Plus /Hulu/ESPN bundle for $12.99. I have Disney Plus on my PS4 at the moment. Any thoughts? No, I haven't looked into it yet myself. I've read a couple places that, yeah, you can do it. It's available. But I haven't done it yet myself, so I can't give you... If any of you guys watching live know where to go specifically to enroll yourself into that deal, drop a comment in the comment section and let a fan of Peanuts knows where he can go. Help a fellow film fan out so he can go and find that and get that signed up. All right, Initial D's writes, my stupid friend watched an episode 9 spoiler video, and now he's mad and said he's not going to go see it. LOL, I told him don't do it and don't tell me anything. Here's the thing, too. 90% of the spoiler stuff is usually crap. I mean, some of the stuff turns out to be real. It does, but you never know. But most of it turns out to be utter rubbish. Remember all the stuff that came out for the previous... Anyway. But also, if you've got somebody giving out the spoilers, generally those are going to be given out by people who have an agenda against the movie. Because people who are really excited about the movie and are blah, they're not going to disseminate that kind of stuff. So you're getting it from a very distorted point of view. It could or could not be accurate information. I would tell them not to get too excited about anything. And by the way, even from fantastic movies, you could hear things out of context. This happens in this movie. That sounds dumb. But then you see the movie and you see it in context. Oh, that actually works perfectly. So... Anyway, it's their own stupid fault if they're going in and trying to engage in that spoiler stuff anyway. KW Garrett 83 writes, did you switch to a super high def camera this morning? No, I've had a super high def camera for a long time. Feels like you're actually sitting in my living room. Must be a nice piece of equipment. No, what I do have a remarkable camera. I upgraded a number of months ago I love this camera that I use. It's called a Sony A6400 is a certain camera, and I use a prime lens on it. A 1.4 lens, which I'm very, very happy with. But what I recently tried doing, starting a couple of days ago, which has caused a couple of problems, but I'm working my way through them, is that we now broadcast live at 60 frames per second as opposed to 30 frames per second. And obviously, as many of you can tell, it does create a difference in the image. It is incredibly system intensive. You'd be surprised just from going from broadcasting at 30 frames per second to 60, how much more bandwidth you have to have. Like people who record in 60 frames per second, that's easy. You just record and you edit and you upload no biggie. But trying to do it live, it's more taxing on the processor. It definitely takes up a lot more bandwidth trying to broadcast out a video that large. But people seem to like the image we're getting. They seem to like the results we're getting. So I think I'll stick with it for a while and we'll see how it goes. But thank you for pointing that out, KW. Ant Banks in 1984 writes, Thor with Stormbreaker in Infinity War is like Michael Jordan with the 96 Bulls. And Thor in Endgame is like Jordan with the... is like Jordan with the Washington Wizards. Hey, listen, Thor did a lot of cool stuff. Again, one of the little things, and this is just a little nitpick, it's an admitted little nitpick, is, we go from Endgame and Thor takes out Thanos in one shot. We get into, sorry, that's Infinity War. We come into Endgame and suddenly now he can't even get in a shot on Thanos. It's a little inconsistent, but it made for a great scene. I got to admit it did. Jihan Bagawar writes, check out Klaus on Netflix. Is pretty fantastic. I've heard decent things about that. I haven't checked it out, but you're not the first person to tell me that, dude. I might have to check that out. The Scumbag of New York writes, hey, John, IndieWire claims the Sonic redesign cost about $5 million. I know you're not a fan, but does that sound reasonably accurate? It does, because remember, when the whole thing was going on about they decided they're going to redesign Sonic. I was against it for philosophical reasons, but I said the reality is it's not actually going to be all that hard because, listen, there's several steps in CGI animation. There's character design. I'm super oversimplifying this, admittedly, but there's 3 stages basically. There's, again, I'm completely oversimplifying this, but there's the character design, there's rigging, and then there's the actual animation. You get the character design, that's obvious. The rigging is now basically putting in the bones, the joints and the bones that exist within that CGI model that become the tools the animators use to create motion and movement. It's called rigging the character. And then there's actually the programming of the animation. I'm going to have the character do this and 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 do this, do whatever, right? I just gave you a dancing meme. With the redesign, one of the things that I said even from the beginning is in reality, it's not actually that big of a deal. It's not like they had to go back to the chalkboard, take out the old Sonic, do a complete redesign, re-rig, reanimate. All they had to do essentially was redesign the model and put a new skin on it. That's all it was. Really, that's all they did. They just put a new skin on it. They were able to keep the rigging, the animation that was already programmed, all that kind of stuff. All they had to do was render a different skin on it and then re-render it out and let it go. So I'll be honest with you, it's 5 million people might say, wow, that sounds really cheap for replacing the character. In reality, 5 million sounds too expensive. I think they probably could have done that for a lot cheaper. And that's why, I mean, it really wasn't that big of a deal for them to go in and do it because all they had to do was replace the model. They just had to replace the skin. Unless they made some other changes as well, but essentially it's not that big of a deal. Scumbag in New York also writes, and yes, I could have Googled that, but super chats are much more fun and supportive to you guys. Well, thank you so much for that, dude. We appreciate it around here. All right, John S. writes, The Accountant 2, please. Oh, me too, man. Like Affleck, but Anna Kendrick is why I watched. Have you seen Mr. Right with Kendrick and Sam Rockwell? A hilarious spoof movie. I have not seen that, as a matter of fact. I did watch, what's it called? Why am I forgetting it? The new one on Disney Plus, Noelle. I did watch Noelle with Anna Kendrick. Awful movie. Just terrible. But I love Anna Kendrick. By the way, if you have not seen A Simple Favor with Anna Kendrick and Blake Lively, who is, of course, Ryan Reynolds' wife, fabulous movie. Probably the most underrated film of the last couple of years. Is not the best movie of the last couple of years, but probably the most underrated. It's a wonderful, wonderful movie. If you haven't seen that, I bet you would like that, John S. All right. Esteval Garcia writes, John, there was a Charlie's Angels Girls Night event. Yeah, I remember seeing an advertisement for that. When I saw that as a man, I said, okay, they don't want me to see this movie, so I passed. No, it's not that, Esteval. The Girls Night thing is an ongoing promotion for particularly female slanted movies, and the Girls Night special event is, again, that's been going on for a while. And by the way, men are allowed to go to those. I've gone to 1 or 2 Girls Night special advanced screening events with Anne. I've gone to a couple of them. They're perfectly fun. Listen, seriously, you know what? I'll be honest with you, Esteban. I'm not saying this is what you're doing. But how insecure and small of a dick do you need to have to feel threatened by the idea that women, like, considering how much shit women have taken over the decades and centuries, that seriously, you have to be a male of complete bottom-feeding levels of self-confidence and self-assurance and self-security and the tiniest of dicks to the notion that women have something for them. I'm so threatened by it. I just will never understand that. I will never understand that. It's confusing to me. But anyway, hey, it is what it is. But yeah, no, this wasn't unique to Charlie's Angels. Every once in a while, some movie theater chains, when there's a particular movie like that coming out, I think 50 Shades did it once as well, what they'll do is they'll book it with the studio to be allowed to have like a 1 week early screening, a one-shot 1 week early screening as a special event. They'll call it a girls' night out event, and anybody can get tickets to it. But it's just called that because they're trying to promote to a particular demographic, just like certain movies promote to male demographics. They do that as well. And it's not that bad. It's just really too bad that the movie didn't turn out to be better because it's not a very good movie, and that is ultimately the problem. Mickey Altieri writes, one of two. Hypothetical question. Let's say an anthology sequel gets nominated for a writing Oscar. For example, let's say Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Since it's an original idea with zero narrative connection to the original two, would it get a Best Original Screenplay nomination, or would it be adapted simply because it's called Halloween 3? It would fall under adapted, and the main reason why is because regardless of how original you try to make it, it is still based off of a previous work. In whatever way, it is still something that is predicated on and built on, regardless of how similar or unsimilar it is to that previous work. It is still based on previously existing work, even if you make it tremendously original. So on that level, under the current rules, as I understand them, they would be nominated for best. It could qualify for best adapted screenplay. Let's see here. All right, Zach Bartran writes, the Imagineering story documentary series on Disney Plus, which I cannot wait to watch, is probably my favorite new thing on there right now. Stuff like that just fascinates you. Dude, I'll tell you, as soon as I saw that they announced that series, and I first heard about it at D23, I went, oh my God, that sounds fascinating. And I still got a lot of stuff on D23 I need to get caught up on. I still haven't watched the second episode of the Jeff Goldblum show, which is about ice cream. So I got to get on that. The Imagineering thing I want to get on. I mean, yeah, they got a number of things on there, but that Disney Imagineering, Zach, that one has really piqued my interest for a while. John Demoto writes, hi, John. I know this is going to be a weird take, but Ford v Ferrari might be my favorite movie of the year so far. It's so good, saw it last night. It's not a weird take. It's one of the best movies of the year. It's one of the best reviewed movies of the year. It's my number 4. It's in my top 5. It's on my number 4 spot right now. Loving that movie is not a weird take at all. Most people seem to be loving it, so you're in good company, John Demoto. All right, Aviator 986 writes, Fathom Events is releasing a Galaxy Quest documentary called Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary on the 26th. I'm in. Did you guys know about this? Oh, absolutely, because a couple people and that I know are the producers of it. Roth Cornett, who used to work with me over at AMC, and then she was at IGN for a while, and now she's over at Screen Junkies. It's a Screen Junkies and Fandom, the company that owns Screen Junkies. Fandom is the production company of this documentary, and Roth is the credited producer of it. And Dan Murrell also is a part of that. I don't know what his official title on it is, but I know Dan Murrell contributed to this as well. So yes, I'm very excited to see it, because you guys know I love Galaxy Quest. And I'm really, really excited to see what these guys have done with that movie. So make sure you guys support it when you get a chance. Go out and support it. All right, Mr. Sketch 22 writes, Rob, who is not here right now, not sure if you're a Steelbook collector. He absolutely is. But Ford v Ferrari Steel is up for pre-order on Best Buy, and it looks glorious. He'll probably I know he said he's going to cut off his physical media buying at some point, but he hasn't yet, and I'm pretty sure, I know he loves this movie, so I'm pretty sure he's probably going to put in an order for that, Mr. Sketch. All right, this is a placeholder name writes, well, I called it. Runaway Season 3 is its last. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people kind of suspected as such. And that's fine. It's fine. I've really liked this show. And, knowing that Kevin Feige is now in charge of all the Marvel stuff, you knew there were going to be changes coming, and that Runaways would be one of those changes coming as well. Russell Amador writes, Miss Banks claims Charlie's Angels flop because men don't support. No, again, we covered all this at the beginning of the show, Russell. That's not true. She actually made those comments talking about just in philosophy before the movie came out. She was not blamed because she hasn't made comments about it since the movie came out. So let me finish reading her comment. Ms. Banks claims Charlie's Angels flop because men don't support females. Again, that's not true, because those comments that are being circulated around, she actually made a week before the movie came out. To support female-lead movies, then claim they saw Wonder Woman, Captain Marvel because comic book movies is a male genre. And she's not 100% wrong about that. Guys are more, I mean, look, it is true. Guys are more likely to support a female-centric movie if it's a comic book movie. That's true. We are. There's no denying that. But any implication that Charlie's Angels failed at the box office because of these stereotypes is completely false. It failed because it's not a very good movie and because it had terrible marketing. That's why it failed. Gemini Man didn't fail because it's a female-centric action movie. No, it failed because not really interesting trailers. I kind of like the trailers, but I know most people didn't. I like the trailers generally, but most people didn't. So trailers have failed to get anybody's attention, and it wasn't a very good movie. And that's the same reason that Charlie's Angels failed. But again, keep in mind, Elizabeth Banks did not make those comments in response to the movie flopping. She made those comments prior to the movie coming out. It does change the context, and there's some truth to her words. There is. But any implication that that's why the movie flopped is completely false. It flopped because it's not very good, because it had terrible trailers. All right, Sean S. writes, John, my Canadian brother, is the Reeve Batman part of the DCU? As far as I know, no. Or should we just drop that as a thought? By the way, been a fan since the movie blog days. Oh, thank you so much, Sean. I mean, that's going back. I mean, a lot of people say they've been following since the AMC days, which is great. But if you want to go back to my real origin story, which is the movie blog, so thank you so much for that. As far as we know, it is not a part of the DCEU. What really drove that home was the fact that we already had a Commissioner Gordon in J.K. Simmons, and they decided to go with a completely different Commissioner Gordon. So it looks like we don't know 100% for sure. But right now, things look like it is not in the DCEU. All right, next up, Auto000 writes, Watchmen Episode 5, best one yet. Show is so good. I don't know if it's the best one yet, but I really did like it. I really did like it. And it more than ever made me really excited about seeing the next episode. I wasn't completely thrilled with episode 4, but I really liked 1 through 3. I really like this last one too. So it's all heading in a good direction. All right, guys, now these are all questions that you see here, guys. These are all questions that came in when we first tried to do the show this morning, and then we had to cancel the event. So a few more of you have sent in more questions since we relaunched the event. I'm not going to be able to have them on screen like these ones, but I will still read them out, and we'll keep rolling with that. Okay, so next up, we've got Johnny Williams, who writes, no Batwoman in the UK, so no episode 2 of Crisis. Are they seriously not going to show episode 2 of Crisis just because one of the characters doesn't have their series going yet? That seems really weird and a bad decision to me. James Ward writes, I finally chosen to switch to buying my movies digitally. Yeah, I did that years ago, and it's something I think more and more of us are going to have to do moving forward. I bought a few movies on YouTube, but I was curious where you buy your films digitally. Generally speaking, I buy my films on the Google Play Store, which is connected to the YouTube thing. So now I can watch my movies in my library anywhere that I have internet access, but I can also watch all my Google Play movies that I bought on YouTube as well. They're all available to me on YouTube as well. So it's a really nice system. They're with me wherever I go. I don't have to have my physical collection with me. I can watch them anywhere, anytime, any way I want. On a TV, on my tablet, on my phone, on my computer, on my laptop. Doesn't matter. I can be at my mom's place in Canada. I can be at my buddy's place in San Diego. Doesn't matter. I can watch all my stuff, and that's a nice advantage. All right, Jonathan, where are we at? Jonathan Miska writes, if the Snyder Cut comes out, it probably won't be for years. The Donner Cut of Superman 2 took over 20 years to be released. And again, it's not really a good thing to compare. The Donner Cut comparison is completely different because it's a totally different set of circumstances surrounding the individual movies. Listen, there is still no completed, ready-to-be-released version of the Snyder Cut. That's generally accepted now. But Warner Brothers could decide to put in some money, do all the polishing on it, and release it if they want. I don't see why they would. The Hollywood Reporter announced yesterday that that Warner Brothers is saying that they have no plans to right now, but it could still happen. Just keep that in mind. It could still happen at some point. Jeremy writes, Mandalorian theme is badass. Also love this show. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I appreciate that, man. He also writes, over under 100% that Barney hits $1 billion. Oh, that's obvious. The new Barney the Dinosaur, the movie that's going to subvert expectations, according to the head guy at what's the name of the toy company? Mattel. It's going to subvert expectations easily. 100% of that hits $1 billion, Jeremy. It's a dumb question to even ask. All right, Devilman just sends in a super chat. Thank you so much for that, Devilman. Trip Mac writes, finally saw Jojo Rabbit. My God, tears. Absolutely. Dude, there is a reason why Jojo Rabbit is still my number one film of the year. God, I love that movie. Raymond 2000 writes, I'm calling it. One MCU movie 2023 date is Inhumans. Ooh, I doubt it. I mean, hey, listen. Anything's possible, Raymond 2000. Anything is possible. But they had such that the name Inhumans is mud right now. It's mud. I don't see them wanting to go back and trying that again. I mean, hey, it's possible. It's possible. Let's not say it's impossible, but I have a hard time believing that. All right, Jesse writes, do you think we can expect the other Disney Plus shows to follow in the Mandalorian guideline of shorter half-hour episodes, maybe to keep costs low? I don't think one show is a big enough sample size for us to speculate about what are all of the rest of the shows going to do. I don't think, now, if we get the first 3 or 4 shows and we see a pattern amongst the 3 or 4 shows, then we can start to speculate. But I don't think there's any point in speculating based on one show. You know what I mean? That doesn't even happen in our world. So I'm not going to make any speculations or guesses what other shows are going to do based on the just one. Let's see after they put out 3 or 4 shows and see what happens, and then we'll take some guesses from there. Mr. Sketch 22 writes, Commander Cody hot toy next year. You excited, Rob? Well, Rob is always excited about any hot toy, so I'm going to guarantee you probably is. And the final question today, guys, comes to us from Nat Zegri, who writes, I'm entertaining piano/singing the CBS All Access holiday party this year. Really? That's kind of cool. Watch The Good Fight and just hired for Jake Gyllenhaal's party. Favorite Jake? Well, that's really cool. Now, I actually had a buddy of mine up in Canada. His name's Jeff, who would do stuff like that. He was a fantastic, brilliant musician, singer, and got to do some really, really cool things. So that's awesome, Nat. Favorite Jake role? Probably would still have to be Nightcrawler. I just loved him in that. I mean, he didn't even get nominated for best actor for that year. And it's not that he got snubbed. It's just, it was such a wickedly stacked year. Oh God, that was a crazy year. But I think his Nightcrawler role was my favorite role of his. All right, guys. That will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. We got off to a rough start today, but we were able to get the show done and we were able to plow through it. Thank you guys so much for your patience and for being here and being a part of that and being a part of the film fan community here. Thank you so much. Special thanks to Robert Meyer Burnett for being in here today. Of course, he will be back again tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, later today, the newest episode, speaking of Star Wars and The Mandalorian, me, Christian Harloff, talking all things Star Wars on Dark Side, Light Side. That's going to be at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time today. Make sure you come back and join us for that. And a special thank you to all of you guys who sent in the Super Chat questions, not just because you sent in great fun things for us to talk about, but also because you supported the channel while you were doing it. And all of us here at the John Campea channel, thank you guys very, very much for that. All right, guys, don't forget to come back and join us a little bit later today. That will do it for me for now. My name is John Campea, and until next time, guys, bye-bye.